everybody is online, and that's why I'm going to share something interesting with you. Do you know that there is a strong possibility of an ongoing attempt to collect some of your confidential information right now, currently? Somebody somewhere using or referring to your local machine or network machine, storage devices, you will find there is an attempt actually to collect your information. Maybe it's not personal because he knows you or she knows you and trying to harm you, but there is a try. We know for sure. All right. So I don't know how everybody would receive this information. So maybe it's worth it to know, like, how do you feel about that? How you feel to know that currently now you are attending a conference. I'm not thinking much of you know with much worries about such situation. And suddenly somebody telling you, yeah, currently it might be somebody trying to steal your information. Um, I don't think that we will feel good about it. Anyway, to start with the topic, I need to ask some questions. And please, everybody, if you could think of those questions as I'm asking direct to you, to yourself. So stop a second with yourself. You don't have to answer me. It just you answer me in your own mind and without raising your hand or without saying anything. So my first question would be, can you share with me your phone's password? Now I'm asking you, like that's a situation. I'm asking you to share your phone password with me. You just know me before 2 minutes, and I'm asking now for your password. What would you feel? What do you think? Will you pass your password to me now? The second question, I'm asking you if you could share your email's password with me. Would you do that? Yes or no? We will find out why. Another question I have, can you know what is your monthly salary? I know many of you say, what kind of question is that? I know that's what is going in your head now, but I have to ask those questions because I have a result after a while. And the last question, can you know what is your bank account and balance? I am a stranger to you. You just met me now in a few minutes, and I'm asking you this question directly. All right, so the situation is, do you dare to say yes to any of my questions? No? I trust your answer is supposed to be no. And why not? Why not? We are asking this question or putting the questions in such a manner. So we are trying to prop the need within every individual of us on how your information might be exposed and how you will need to think about it from different views, from different angles, maybe. So why not? Why you are not willing to share all this information with me? So the simplest answer would be you would be worried if something wrong happened to your data. So maybe if or depend on the background of each individual. So maybe you are not sure of what kind of things, what kind of wrong things might happen to your information. So at the time being, you are just not happy with that. I'm not sure with giving it because it won't be okay. Something wrong might happen. Now, if we investigate those statements, if we investigate those, processes or procedures, so maybe we need to clarify or identify exactly what is our worry when it's related to such information and what would be our reflect in case some outsiders try to get these information. In terms of confidentiality, I don't think many of us, they are willing to give the password of their mobile phones or of their email addresses, or to know my bank account or my bank balance even. So that's the confidential and private information that maybe we are not willing to give. Am I right? Another thing would be the integrity. So I'm worried if I give you some of these information and you will misuse it, and then I cannot use that information anymore. You broke it. I lost it. It's not reliable. It's not usable anymore. So that would be another reason for me not to share such important information. The third thing is availability. So what if something happened when I give you my ID or my password to my email and you change the password? I cannot reach my emails anymore. Very important emails, very important data is there. So that was the third thing that you will not, that will impedes you actually from giving me your email address. All right. So the three concepts here being highlighted as reasons that why you might be worried to give out your information to strangers. That's what we call it, the three security principles. Those three security principles, all the time as we are talking or concerning about the security related to our information system and our data. So those are the things we try to test and justify and make sure that they are well protected or well served actually. So your information in return will be saved. All right. So that was just a start, just trying to show, in a simple way that what is really might be going on. So just to sum up, those attempts to break into information systems, they are happening constantly, all the time, and all of us are exposed, either in there with our individual and personal computers, or because we belong to a bigger networks. After all those attempts, they will contribute to breach one of the security principles related to your information, which is the confidentiality or the integrity or the availability. That would be the basic concept, maybe, and reason to look into some of the fundamentals of the cybersecurity. As we know, cybersecurity is one of the latest trends. With the extreme growth of the use of the computer systems and the internet, smartphones, PDAs, laptops, and computers, different ages, young, teenage, and old, everyone is using computer system. So now the threats become more and more. And there is an urgent need for everybody to participate and contribute in protection the individuals, organizations, and even social and community information and information system. So that's why actually I chose this topic to discuss today, because it's part of a vision that I have. We need to spread the knowledge and the awareness with everybody of the importance of the cybersecurity and the role of individuals actually in contribution to help in securing their own data, their own system, and in turn that will affect everybody's computer system. Anyway, so now when we start to study or to discuss this cybersecurity, as I said, three main things or three main principles we have to investigate: the threats, the cyber attacks, and the cybersecurity countermeasures. All right, so we start by identifying or trying to understand what are the threats with cybersecurity and how that will be affecting us. Now, we will back to a principle, we call it the CIA: confidentiality, integrity, and availability, the things that we just discussed now. So a threat that might cause the loss of one of these three main principles, it will affect badly users or individuals, organization, communities, and even governments. Now, for each one of us, actually, we believe we have a certain amount and certain type of information that will be private. We consider it as private information. It's supposed not to be exposed by those who are not authorized. So, what will happen if the privacy or your privacy breaches and this information being disclosed to unauthorized people? So that's a situation where the confidentiality of the data being broke. The second case is the loss of data integrity. So that is a threat also. Because if this happens, so the resources or the data and resources will be, in this case, unreliable and unusable. If I store or if I save certain information online, so I can refer to this information in the future if something or emergency happened, and now I get to know that this information might be changed for some reason. It might be changed. Maybe it's not the original one, the one I saved. So it's useless now. That's because I saved it online or somewhere because I want it to be like my backup. So that's a threat if this of the integrity of the information jeopardized. Number three is this: if the cyber attacks and the system failure could result in unavailability of the information system and services. So it's a situation where we really more relying on the online services. I think in this era, we depend so much into networks, into cloud computing. So most of our information now, we try to keep it online. The services we are using, actually, we also use it from online, or we keep it online. So I don't think now we will really accept or take it easy if we are out of internet services, for example, or the server that contains our information can be out of service or down. Okay, so these are the main threats that could threaten the security principles as we discussed them. Okay, so if these are the threats, how those threats can be achieved? I mean, if there is an attacker, he has to do something to create this threat. Okay, so that's the second point we need just to discuss with everyone. As I said, I'm going through this in a form of creating an awareness for us as individuals. And finally, I will summarize that from the perspective of us as scholars. So when we discuss cyber attack, I would like to, categorize the type of the attacks or the cyber attacks into two main categories. The first one, those targeting the users or the end users, and we call it the deception. And maybe it's here are the most important part of my talk today, because this is happening to every individual, you, me, my family members, your friend, your boss, your colleague at work, everybody. So this is when it comes to you as individual, this is what they might do to you, and that's how you might lose the confidentiality or the integrity or the availability of your data. So 5 common techniques, not limited to 5, but those are the most common 5 techniques that intruders can use against individual in trying to break into their system. We read maybe some of those, we've been there, maybe somebody attempts those on us. So if we could review a little about them, like in a shoulder serving. So this is happen, I mean, when you are in public places, in the library, or even in the college sometimes, in the work, and somebody is speaking over your mobile device or your computer, trying to read your ATM card number or your credit card number or your password number when you're interacting with certain system. So maybe that would be enough to break into one of your very important, accounts, like your email. If I have your email and I could see what is your password, then that's done. So that is one of the attacks, actually, to break down into your privacy and collect some of the very important information. Number two, impersonation and the hoaxes. Um, you know the situation, if when you are the one to be impersonated, or somebody else will impersonate community or organization and be in touch with you. So that might be affecting, all the connected parties, and this comes in a form of stealing information, or sometimes a ransomware situation where you have to pay some money to, all these situations. All right. The piggybacking and the tailgating, and in reality, we have this issue in the physical when we are, moving into physical rooms, sometimes within your building, the place you are living at, sometimes at your workplace, and even sometimes it's online. If somebody is just like, fix walking behind your tail, trying to get himself into some place using an authorized person. So it's just something that we also need to be aware and take care of. Those online services, email and web-based tricky. Many things are going online. It might be tricky for you. Jokes, fun, movies, many things. Finally, you will end up with some scam over your computer, collecting your information and send it to some third parties where this information will be used, analyzed, and maybe distributed even. And the fifth point it's the keyboard logging. It's maybe the oldest technique, very old technique. Intruders will install certain software somehow in your computer system to collect keystrokes from your computer. Everything will be recorded, how you are using your keyboard, when you register your ID, when you register your password. This information will be kept in a log file, and later maybe the intruder will come in person to collect it from your PC, and some advanced keyboard logging systems, they would send these information via network to the intruder. Okay, now if I'm going to summarize the motivation behind the 5 attacks here, so I want to highlight a very important point, which is access. So access and access control, for example, they are two important terms when we are referring to security. So if you review those 5 deception techniques, you will find the purpose of all those 5 techniques is to get access to your resources. So yes, they are trying to steal your PIN password, but why they need it? To access your account. So that's the stage, or that's the most important part in this category of cyber attack, that intruders will try to trick users to gain access to their accounts, and from there they can start different processes. Okay. The second type of the cyber attack would like to categorize it in a form of those attacks will be targeting organizations, services, or networks, for example, and those who we will call as attacks. Also here, I would like to discuss or to mention 5 main attacks only. There are many, but those may be among the most common. So denial of service attacks, it's among the most common attempt by intruders to affect, company, organization, and even a country for different reasons. People, they are doing that. So finally, for me as an end user, uh, I have my data stored somewhere behind a server. So if that server is unreachable, so I cannot reach my data. if the service I'm using on that server, so I cannot use my service. So that is the issue. So we always don't wish to be in such a situation, especially nowadays when everything is online. Sniffing. Attackers all the time, they will be trying to listen or sniff networks, collecting packets of information, keep it for later analyzing and reading and understanding, and all these acts. Spoofing as well, especially when we are over a certain network. If somebody has the access to one of those trusted computers over the network, and he can or she can do some kind of attack over the network by placing certain Trojan or certain viruses and so on. Man in the middle. This is another type of networks. If somebody interferes certain or specific connection or network, and this person can listen or receive copies actually, or interrupt basically the messaging between two parties or more. So he will be, or the messages will be directed to his PC, where he will see or even modify, alter the messages without anybody notice, and then continue or send back the message to the destination. So the receiver will receive that message, the altered message actually, without noticing that this message has been changed or modified at the first place. And the final type of attack here is the zero-day attack. So some software, they might be suffering from certain weaknesses or vulnerability that they might be exploited and used by attackers for a while. Problem with this type of attack that you will not know until the last minute. The last minute means that you've been already used, or that vulnerability was used. For how long, maybe we don't know. So, but somebody was listening, stealing, or looking into your files until he decided that to reveal themselves. So, as you can see, 10 common cyber attacks. Things can be done toward or against you as individual person, or against the entire network that you belong to. All of them, they will affect or they will contribute finally in one of the three disasters that might happen to our information. It might touch the integrity, the availability of the information, or even the confidentiality of the information. So if we already know the threats, and now we see what kind of attacks that we might be facing, so how we could or how we can countermeasure those cyber attacks, cybersecurity attack, and cybersecurity or cybercrime in general. The current efforts to overcome these kind of attacks can be categorized into three main categories. Number one is the use of technologies. Hardware, software-based, and network-based technologies can be implemented over the network and individual computers in a purpose of protecting these devices using those technologies against those kind of attack. And a huge number of researchers, scholars, universities, industry supporting research and work to provide a better level of security for those networks. The other category, the second category, is cybersecurity policies and procedures. International organization, they created and provide standards, policies, procedures, and guidelines that can support any institution on framing their or the security of their systems. So what kind of procedure, what kind of policies can be implemented within the organization itself to control the relationship between the organization and the outside world, and even control the relationship between the organization, their staff, employees, and their customer even. So those standards and policies, they might, help to mitigate the risk that we can be exposed to. The third category, or the third countermeasure that we can use, is education and training. And this is my concern actually today. This is the most important thing I want to highlight today. As I said, in point number 1 and 2 here, technologies and cybersecurity policies and procedures, that we have a lot of work there. We are focusing so much into technical parts. We are trying to revise protocols, to develop software, hardware, protocol and networks to protect the computer standards. We have so many standards, companies, revised version of those standards of how to deal with security breaches and keep the security of our systems. And I don't know, it's not we forgot, but we need to highlight to ourselves again that the majority of the information that we're trying to protect belongs to the end users, or those people who might be really not aware of anything that we have said today. They don't know why they have to protect their information. They don't know where is their information located, and they don't know what kind of risks might be around while they are, using their computers or their even mobile phones. So that's why organization, they can really train, educate their employees, and even the individuals can be training themselves or train themselves into cybersecurity threats, possibilities, countermeasures, and general skills and knowledge, actually, just to protect themselves. All right. So this is just to or consider as a foundation or introduction to the entire topic, to highlight the main thing for me to talk about here, which is the people. So what are the rules of the individuals or the users in data protection? I know, I've been there, I heard so many cases, like people say, why we care so much? Anyway, I don't know much, but my account, for example, my email with Gmail and Google, they're a great company, they're a big company, they will take care of my account, they will secure it. All right, so that is okay. Part of this is true, but I think something need to be revised here, because the main thing here, we need to handle threats. Threats are there, attempts are there all the time. How we normally do that? The answer to that is prevention and protection, of course. Okay, we prevent, or we need to prevent possible threats by applying a protection mechanism. Three main types of those protection mechanism can be applied to protect information systems and the data: authentication, encryption, and data obscuring. So, because as I said from the very beginning, that here in today's talk, I'll try to focus more into the people. So let us talk about what people know and what people concern, which is the authentication. I don't know how you who are attending the conference today, I don't know how you can see authentication. I don't know how much you trust authentication. I don't know how much you know the benefit or the challenges while you are using authentication. But let me open this session also with a question. I don't know, maybe you are aware of this thing. You know Sinbad in the story of the Alibaba and the 40 thieves. So if you remember with me the story, how did Sinbad manage to open the mouth of the Alibabas and the 40 thieves cave? Then he could reach out and get the treasures inside. What did he do? If you're familiar with the story. Actually, he got one word or two words actually in this case, which is open sesame. So according to the legend, according to the story, that he found that, or he heard those group of thieves when they are using this term to open that cave, and they hide their treasures inside. So when he heard the word, he tried it after they left, and again the cave opened and he can see the treasures. All right. So now, what is the situation here? The situation brings me back to talk about access. So he needed to access certain place, which is the cave in this case. So the way was, one party protected that cave by creating a secret, which was the word open sesame, and he could break into that security system by finding the secret. So this is what all authentication about. So as a conclusion, we can prove our ownership of a certain assets if you have or you know the secret. At the same time, you can protect your assets by creating a secret. All right. Now, these secrets or these authentication methods that we are creating currently, they are one of three things actually. Something we are, something we have, or something we know. Those are the basis for creating the expected level of authentication to secure our accounts or to secure our information system. All right. Now, for those three main authentication methods, so I will take a five example of the common implementation for those. Password-based authentication represents something you know, because you could recall or recite the password. So it's a knowledge-based authentication system. So you could create a password that will protect your assist, and the password will be your key. So nobody will reach to your information unless they have that key. Number two, a multi-factor authentication. Here we can actually mix some of the methods that we will discuss now. Number three, we have a certificate-based authentication. Is something we have based on the attestation that we have done the last time from this computer. That will be the evidence that I have the right and the privilege to enter to certain account. Biometric authentication is something we are. Your fingerprint, your face recognition, iris scan. So it's something you are. Finally, token-based authentication, which is something we have, like presenting cards or presenting a mobile code or something like that. Okay, seems great, seems good. So I can use one of those methods, or we are using one of those or many of those to secure a single system. So are we safe? So is that everything we need to do? Is that what it takes to secure our data? So that's the big question. All right. In order to answer that one, so I will try to all right, I'll try to close by that. To answer that question, who's involved in the entire process? So let us categorize them into two main categories. They will be the individual or user, or let us call them the data owners, those who will give you the data or combine the data at your site. And the other one is the organization, the data keepers or data collectors. All right. Rules and responsibilities for both parties. As me as individual, so I have to create a lock to secure my account. So maybe by choosing specific or certain authentication mechanism. And after that, I have to keep the secret, which is the key. Because in case I jeopardize the security of the key, so all the information might be, or the security of the information might be jeopardized, and I will lose my data for one of the mentioned reasons previously. All right. So now, how you may lose the secret? which is the key. How you can lose it. So this will bring us back to the point when we discuss 5 deception cyber attacks, or 5 cyber attacks methods, which we call the deceptions. In either one of way of those, you might lose the access to your information system, and that might be really harmful. And it's not just for you. Somebody steal your ID and password. Somebody is doing a shoulder surfing and he get your PIN password. What he can do? He can impersonate you, and he can attack your entire network, and things are getting more ugly. Okay, now so we ended up asking the question, is that whatever we takes or it takes to secure our data? So number one, we say is the individuals and the other data owners, and they are the one who create the locks, and they will keep the key. All right. The other responsibility is for the organization who keep, collect and keep the data. So their responsibility is to provide certain safeguards to protect our data during data transmission or data processing or data storage. All right. So this was from the very beginning out of my scope of discussion, because we know that all organizations, they are doing this somehow, but I'm not going to evaluate it today. So that's why it's there. They're using technologies, the one we just mentioned now, to keep the security of the data during these 3 states: data transmission, processing, and storage. And that's why we said our focus actually will be over the individual, because they are creating the locks and they have the key. And if they lose their keys, that will be a critical issue. So to conclude what I have been talking about today, awareness is a key success factor to safeguard our own data. So individuals who are aware of the weaknesses of our systems, they are aware of the threats, the attacks over the internet, they will be more likely to keep their information safe. Major efforts actually is to understand the possible threats and build required knowledge fighting back the threats. Now, my advice, or what I want to conclude finally, that the schoolers supposed to focus a little more over educating the people. I mean, maybe we can conduct some statistical studies to measure people in our domains, how they really tolerate, or how they deal with the security aspects related to software systems in their workplaces, maybe in their college, schools, and even at home. That's supposed to help us, everyone in his place, in his domain, to understand how these people really dealing with the internet, and define the gap in the knowledge and the skills. So if we could really educate people from different background, from different age group, or maybe or different domain, work, education, study, so that would be a very good start, a very good contribution to create a generation who are aware of all those kind of security risks. And the more awareness we could provide to the individual, the better security we could have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, sir, I think, sir, in this pandemic situation, the knowledge you shared is very, very important to us, sir, because everything is moving on in an online processing, online transactions, even though in education also, online education, it prevails. So I think that, sir, here also nearly 350 students are actually listening your presentation, sir, because this is broadcasted to all the individual class groups. So 350 students are hearing your words, and I think that in this pandemic situation, it is very, very important to them to protect themselves, that is themselves, their data from hackers. So it's a very
Yeah.
meaningful session, and you shared a very great information, and that too in open system. It's very favorable thing, sir. Love in and the
Yeah.
40 minutes. Yeah, you make us to understand in a fruitful manner, sir. So thank you. Thanks a lot, sir, for joining us and sharing this session with us. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Glad to be there.
That's nice, sir. Welcome. So I think that today we come to an end. So tomorrow we can continue this conference right from 10 a.m. onwards. Till then, stay safe. Bye bye.